I'm Darren Morton.
I'm Simon Matthews. This is Lift,
the lifestyle medicine podcast where we dive into the science of health and well-being. Good morning to you, Simon. How is the weather in Spain? Is there any rain on the plane?
Well, I don't know because it's just after 6 a.m, so it's not even light for me to be able to tell you yet. But yesterday was a sunny day, at least weather-wise. Wasn't so sunny for Real Madrid though. I watched a game last night, and sadly they went down. But,
Spoiler alert. Although we're not referring to what game it was. So I'm sure throughout history at some point they've lost some game. So, yeah. Hey, speaking of games, I'd like to play a game with you. So here's how the game works, right? So we're actually it's actually based off, and I'm going to be talking about a study that I find absolutely fascinating. It was actually a study conducted on computer gaming, but I think it holds some really profound insights for how we interact with other humans. And I'd love your perspectives and thoughts on this as a psychologist who knows everything there is to know about human behavior and how to interact with others. But anyway, here's the game. So I
feel well prepared because I've got a computer here.
Oh, you've got perfect. All right. So the game is actually a modified version of a game that's referred to as the prisoner's dilemma. But we're going to play it in. We won't go into the background of what that looks like. All I need you to do is to show me a thumbs up. So I need to be able to see that on your screen
right now.
And yep, that's correct. So that's
you want
thumbs up.
A real.
I want a real thumbs up.
Not
real human
not a virtual thumbs up.
That's correct. You're going to do that little maneuver if you would like to cooperate with me. Okay. And what we're going to do, it's going to be on the count of 3. So I'll go 1, 2, 3, reveal. Okay. And then we get to reveal what you want to do. So thumbs up means that you'd like to cooperate with me. Thumbs down means you would like to compete with me. And this is how the game goes. So if we both decide to cooperate, so it's 2 thumbs up, we will get 3 points each. Okay. If, however, I want to cooperate and you do a competitive thing and thumbs down, you actually win. So competitors in this instance beat cooperators. And you will get 5 points for that, and I will get 0 points. If, however, you want to cooperate and I want to compete, well, then I'm the one that gets the 5 points and you get nothing. And if we both decide to compete, 2 thumbs down, we get 1 point each. All right. So recap: 3 points if we both want to cooperate. If one of us wants to compete while the other one wants to cooperate, we get 5 points for the competitor, and the other one gets 0. And if we both want to compete, we only get 1 point each. Are you ready?
We can maximize our score by both wanting to cooperate.
Well, not quite. You will actually maximize your score by beating me, and that is by me actually doing a thumbs up, wanting to cooperate, and you're actually wanting to compete. Because in that instance, you'll get 5 points and I'll get nothing. So this is the game, and we're going to.
So 2 thumbs up.
Yep.
We both get 3.
3 points. Yes.
You 2 thumbs down. We
1
both
point
get
each.
1 point each.
Yes.
You up, me down.
Yep.
I get
5
5
to me.
5 to you.
5 to me because I'm the
me up.
competitor.
Me up, you down. I get 5.
Yes, correct. That's correct.
Okay.
All right, so here we go. Let's just put our thumbs in the center. So we don't know what the other person's about to do, but we're showing it, and it's going to be, we won't do it this time, but it's 1, 2, 3, reveal. Are you ready?
Okay.
1, 2, 3, reveal. I don't know if there was time. Did you see what I'd done before you actually went for it?
No.
No. Excellent. Okay.
Because I'm not actually looking at you on the screen. I'm looking at my camera.
Okay. Very nice. Okay. You can put your thumb away for a moment. So for the listeners who can't see clearly what just happened, we both went with, we wanted to cooperate. So we just won 3 points each. Good for us. Now, you know what, Simon, I have played this game. Actually, I have a youth group that I lead, and I got these bunch of boys. And I said, all right, boys, we're going to play this game. I put them back to back, and I said, okay, 1, 2, 3, reveal. What do you think their first response was? I think it was like, actually, I think every boy, young boy, which option do you think they went for?
I reckon they would have tried to compete with each other.
They competed. So they got 1
Yeah.
point.
So
And
they
then
minimised the score shared between them.
that's correct. That's correct. And then next time round, so this game is actually played repetitively. What do you think the pattern that emerged from there?
The pattern that emerged. Interesting question. So maybe this reveals a little bit about my own paradigms and beliefs about teenage boys. But I reckon
Yeah.
they possibly deepened their competitiveness over
Yes.
time.
That's exactly what happened. It went into a gridlock where neither would want to cooperate. So because they knew if they put their thumb up, and from past history, they'd been in this competitive mode with their friend, so-called friend, that they were actually going to get nothing, and then they would get 5 points. The other person would get 5 points, and they'd get ahead further and further like this. So it basically got into this gridlock pattern. So this was actually a study that was conducted by Robert Axelrod back in the 80s. And what he said, I would like computer programmers to submit a strategy. He called it a strategy, but essentially it was a predetermined computer program that didn't know what the first reveal would be, but it would know what their competitor did last time. And so he actually said, computer programmers, submit your strategy, and I'm looking for the strategy. Then once played against every other strategy, 200 rounds with every other strategy, what is the approach that we should adopt to gain the maximum amounts of points? Because this actually has real world applications as well. It's like, for example, how do I respond to someone when I first interact with them? In fact, they were even using this experiment. They were trying to understand. I mean, this was during the Cold War. You know, what happens here? We had, the United States and Russia who were arming, and then they got to the point where, oh, well, let's get some more arms, and then more arms, and now we can actually blow each other up 7 times over. But we're still competing. Let's keep going for it. And eventually the tide did turn. But so the profound nature of this, it actually has applications for real world strategies. So here's the really, really fascinating thing. He had 16 entries, Professor Axelrod, 16 strategies, and he played them all against each other. And when the points were tallied at the end, he ranked them in terms of how many points these different strategies had achieved. And the top 8 all had something consistent about them, as did the bottom 8. And this was it. The top 8 all, as what he came to refer to them as, they were nice strategies. In that, their first round, every single one of them wanted to cooperate as compared to compete. That was the top 8, and then the bottom 8 all were, their first round was they wanted to compete. So the first take, the lesson one that he drew out of this, and he said, and this relates to how we interact with other humans as well, is start nice. So start nice. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it kind of makes a lot of sense to me, but I'm thinking about it not necessarily from a human niceness perspective, although I do happen to think that I'm a nice person, and I do happen to think that you're a nice person. But
We
quite
just
apart from
proved that, didn't we?
I mean, I'm thinking about it from an economic perspective. So, if we were to play many rounds of this, say 200, clearly the way that we both maximise our points is by choosing ahead of time to cooperate every time, because then we just both steadily get 3 points each. There's no chance of anyone ever getting 0 points. No chance of both of us only getting 1 point. So if we both choose to be nice, then we're going to get the very best that we can.
And that's a very enlightened view of it. And once again, I refer back to my youth boys, my teenage boys.
Does this mean I'm both a nice person and enlightened?
And enlightened, exactly. In fact, you know what is even more enlightened? Because I watched this play out with these young teenage boys, and it was like, instantly compete. I actually saw a video of this study being done and recreated in school situations, and there was one particular kid who every time wanted to compete, and it got to the point, and this we're actually come to the second lesson that came out of this game in just a moment, but it got to the point where he was being taken advantage of, and so the others just knew, oh, we compete and we get 5 points every time, and he gets 0. Anyway, he just kept on doing thumbs up, cooperate. And in the end, one of the instructors said, hey, son, do you realize that you're getting no points here? That every time, when they're competing and you're wanting to cooperate, they're actually getting 5 points and you're getting nothing. So they're taking all the points. And this young kid, I think this is incredible. This young kid said, no, he said, the most points you can get each round isn't 5, it's 6. And what he'd actually made this connection is that exactly what you're saying. If we both cooperate, the total points per each round is 3 for each. There's a total of 6 points up for grabs here, and we can share them, as compared to, you get all 5 and I get nothing. And I thought, wow, what an incredible young individual. I'd love to watch his life course, because you've seen these studies, done by like Daniel Goleman and the like, where they look at emotional intelligence, and these kids that have this sort of enlightened view of how to interact with others and how they turn out to be the school captains, and they get on well in life just because people like people who are nice to them and like them.
Yeah.
So that was the first lesson. But here is the interesting thing. When he then said, okay, lesson 1 is be nice. That's a great first approach to how we interact with people. Even if we can't, pre-orchestrate what our responses should be. Right. So like you've said, so be nice. But then he said, okay, well, these top 8 performing or score pointing strategies were nice. They started with thumbs up. But what was the top performing one out of all of them? And so some of them were completely random. Some of the strategies that were submitted, like every 4th one want to compete the rest of the time. But the winning strategy was actually one that was called tit for tat. And that was, it started nice. So it was a nice strategy. It went thumbs up. Yes, let's cooperate. But then it observed, because the strategy would know what the other strategy did last round.
Yeah. Okay.
And so it would look at that and it would say, okay, that time, if they cooperated on that first round, then it would say, well, let's do that again. And so it would just keep repeating, essentially reflecting what the other strategy had done. If the other strategy in the first round competed, then in the next round, it would go thumbs down too. And it turned out that was actually the strategy that recorded the most amount of points out of all the other strategies. So here was the second lesson that emerged from it. So Axelrod said, number 1, be nice, start nice. But number 2, don't be a pushover. And I'm interested, as a psychologist, what's your reflections on that?
Lift is supported by the Lift Project, an educational adventure where you learn science-based ways to lift your mood and your life. The Lift Project is lifting lives around the globe, in healthcare settings, workplaces, schools, universities and communities. To find out more, visit theliftproject.global.
Well, so one of the things that comes to mind straight away is you're only losing something here if you feel like you've got something to lose, and you're only winning something here if you feel like what you're winning is worth it. So in the classic prisoner dilemma, and in this version of it that we just played, we're playing for points, which are meaningless. I mean, they don't even have a currency for us. It's not that there's not even a way that we can kind of spend the accumulated points at the end. So really, neither of us, well, at least I'll speak for myself, I don't have anything to really either lose or gain, except the interest of playing. So even if I lose every round, I don't feel like I'm being taken advantage of, and And even if I win every round, I don't feel like I'm actually winning anything at all. But it's a little bit different in real life, isn't it? For
Yes.
example, if there are limited resources available, and you and I, are both competing, or we're both endeavouring to get a share of those limited resources, then all sorts of other human reactions and emotions might come to play. If there's one loaf of bread, my fear that I might not get any may lead me to thumbs down you and want to compete for all of it, rather than go, there's a pathway where we could both get some bread here. On the other hand, if it felt to me like the resources were sufficient, then I might be happy to still consistently share. So we still get, a little bit each.
Yeah,
So,
this is
I think
insightful
there's a
to me.
resource question. Yeah,
there is, and you're talking about if we're approaching this from a scarcity mindset, then that will influence the way that we interact with other people, as compared to sort of an abundance, sort of generosity mindset.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
The other place my mind is going here is I wonder if this has any applicability internally for a person. So, for example, we often talk about the idea of in an athletic event, a 10K race or a half marathon or something like that. We often talk to people about the idea not of competing with others, but just competing with yourself. So, on the surface of it, that sounds like a good idea. But I wonder what would happen if we delivered different messaging about cooperating with yourself rather than competing with yourself. I wonder how that might influence the behaviours that we display. So I wonder whether adopting internally a more cooperative paradigm might lead to, for example, higher levels of self-compassion, higher levels of self-kindness, higher levels of grace to oneself. And I wonder whether that may then have some overall impact on the outcome.
I
honestly don't know. I don't know the answer here, but
yeah, it's interesting you've gone there though, because they were, when they were publishing these results and they were sort of documenting the key lessons for interpersonal relationships, my mind did go to, hey, I think we can probably apply these same principles to ourselves. And the lesson one, be nice. So as you've sort of indicated, to actually be a little bit self-compassionate, to ourselves, be kind to ourselves at times. That second lesson, though, be nice, is lesson one. Lesson two, but don't be a pushover. I do find that there are times when I probably do need to give myself a bit of a shove along as well. So, that there's a balancing act there, isn't there? It's to sort of be nice, but then also, don't be a pushover. Don't let yourself walk all over yourself. I wonder where the balance is in that scenario.
I wonder if this translates into real world situations. Like, let's imagine that. I'll share with you a couple of things, a couple of strategies that I use myself when, for example, I'm running, when I'm training to run, or perhaps eating as well. So there's two things that come to mind that I automatically do for myself, and I wonder whether these might be consistent with the strategy. When I'm running, particularly if I'm doing a training run that involves me working harder, working at more of a threshold level. So I'm running faster, breathing harder. It's harder work. It's more exhausting. One of the strategies that I use is to say to myself, okay, you can have a rest soon. You can have a rest soon. So that's kind of being kind to myself. But after that tree, or after that rubbish bin, or after that fence post or gate or whatever it might be. So on the one hand, I'm saying, okay, you can take it easy, but only after this particular landmark is passed. And the other thing that I do sometimes with so I know that you have a deep longing and craving for chocolate, which you aim to satisfy from time to time. I have a similar one, and sometimes in particular a chocolate coated ice cream. So I'll allow myself to have a chocolate coated ice cream after. Maybe it's a time. Maybe I'll say, yeah, I'm going to have one today, but it's not going to be until 8 o'clock. Or maybe, yeah, I'm going to buy another box of them, but I'm not going to buy the box until tomorrow or the next day. So I don't know whether this is consistent with that strategy, but it seems to me that there's an element of both kindness to myself in that. And not being a pushover.
Yeah. And, I do wonder if it's different for different people. I remember I was driving past a gym not long back, and their sort of byline was, let's make it burn, right? And I thought, really? Who's going to a gym like that? And then I thought, you know what? There were people walking in, and I wonder whether some people like that. I to be honest, I like that. I like actually being pushed hard. I like going and doing a training session and feeling like I've just flogged myself. And I come away feeling good for that.
Yeah.
Where there are other people that's the worst thing they could possibly imagine, and that would just put more pain on the whole experience, and more likely that they're going to arm's length it. So, So I wonder whether it's a bit of a personality type.
Yeah, possibly. And I wonder also whether it's to do with whether there's a connection here with what you experience in the present moment and what you can experience in the future. So, for example, I might have an experience of loss because you've got 5 points and I've got none, or moderate loss because, I let you have some points. We both got 3. I didn't kind of push hard. So we each got 3 points. But at the end of it all, once the game is over, once it's tomorrow or the next day or the next week, the feeling that I'm left with of I acted like a nice person there, or I did a nice thing, might be the more prevailing thing that is important to me and remains with me. So perhaps there's a question around the difference between the short term and the medium and longer term gains as well. Which again, if we think about for example, a lifestyle medicine context and the way in which people might be seeking to change their behaviour, it occurs to me that it's important to help people get that full perspective. So not just connect with what we often call the short-term pain, but also connect with the long-term gain, and really connect with it. So when I say connect with it, I don't just mean kind of name it or recognise it, but actually pause and reflect on what that experience might be like. And in behavioural change, of course, we can do that in many, many different ways. So, for example, I might invite someone not just to name what they might feel in the future or would like to feel in the future. I might invite them to describe an image of that to me. What that looks like to them. I might get them to fill out that picture, what it looks like, who else is there in the picture, what sorts of things are being said to them, what sorts of things are being said about them, when they've reached that particular milestone that they want to reach. I might even invite someone to endeavour to connect with the emotional and bodily or somatic experiences that they're having. In other words, what does it actually feel like to you to get there? So there's going to be some burn in the short term. The long term is, you'll reach this particular goal or target that you want to reach, or you'll have the experience that you want to have. Let's now dig into that. What does that experience really feel like to you? And if you can connect with the fullness, if you like, of that experience, then that can potentially strengthen your pathway towards that, because you're really now connecting with a whole experience that you're going to really value.
And maybe through pushing yourself, not being a pushover, is ultimately how you're kind to yourself as well in achieving some of those goals that you're after.
Yeah, and it really does highlight the, I guess those challenges that we have in understanding what's a good choice for a particular person right now, and if you really value the experience right now, then you might choose something. If you value conceptually what you might feel like as a result of behaving in a particular way right now, then you might choose something different. If what's at stake matters a lot to you, you might choose something. If what's at stake doesn't matter so much to you, you might choose something else.
Yeah, which loops back to what you said before. So the story isn't finished yet, because it's interesting. That was the first study that was actually conducted by Professor Axelrod, and they were the key takeaways is that be nice. So be nice, but don't be a pushover. But then what he said, let's run the experiment again. And so now that everyone knows the results and these computer programmers how it all works, I'll invite you to submit. Yeah, we won't play the game again, but he said, I'll invite new strategies. So you can put new entries now, and we're going to run the game again. And so he did it in quite a sophisticated way. But there was a strategy that actually ended up by beating the tit for tat. And what was interesting about this one is it was very similar to tit for tat. That is, whatever the last strategy did the previous round, it would replicate that. There was one subtle tweak, though, and this is how it went. This strategy was still a nice one. So it started, thumbs up, I'd like to cooperate with you. If the other strategy wanted to compete, it gave it one more chance to cooperate. And so it was like this, okay, is that how you want to play? Let me give you one more opportunity to be nice. But if you don't, okay, well then let's default to tit for tat from now. And so what they called this one was forgiving tit for tat. And I think that's really quite, once again, the third lesson. So in terms of, if we're applying this to human interaction, number one, be nice. So start nice, think the best. Don't come at it with this scarcity mindset. Be generous in your first interactions with people. Secondly, don't be a pushover, though. If people want to play hardball, then don't, allow that to persist. But thirdly, and you use this word right early in that podcast, which intrigues me, is be gracious. Exercise some grace when there's opportunity to do that. So what do computer games tell us about how to interact with other humans? Be nice. Don't be a pushover. And be a little bit gracious and forgiving at times as well.
Yeah,
what do you think about that, Simon? Is that a good way to approach human behaviour?
I think it, at many levels it is, and I'm also thinking about that forgiving strategy and what that might help us to do. So in the event that we start and we thumbs down, then the strategy says, okay, it looks like you want to play that way. Have a think about this again.
Mm.
I think what that might be doing is giving us a chance to move past our initial emotional reaction, which might be a reaction driven by anxiety, and engage some more thinking and reflection before we commit ourselves. And that's a really valuable strategy in lots of things.
Yes.
We are at some level animals, and we know that animals are driven by instinct. And we know that as human beings, we have a lot of instinctive behaviours. We have an instinctive behaviour to sleep when we're tired, to drink when we're thirsty, to eat when we're hungry, and so on. But we can also have some instinctive fear-based behaviours. So when something feels like it's threatening, our fear response can really drive and shape the behaviour that we have. So in this instance, taking a pause to reflect for a moment and consider, in this situation right now, is this the best thing to do? I think is valuable. And again, if we think about the context of lifestyle medicine and behavioural change, that's a great strategy. You get this initial surge of emotion or urge to do something. Acknowledge that. Now let's pause. Think about that again. Is that a good thing to do right now? And I guess sometimes you'll conclude, yes, it is a good thing to do. Yes, I still want to compete. And other times you might not.
Yeah. Look, I mean, to wrap it up, I think when I saw this, I was intrigued by this, and I think that that a computer game would inform how we should interact with others, and possibly how we should interact with ourselves as well. And in light of the fact that relationships is one of the pillars of lifestyle medicine, I think these are valuable lessons for us, and I think that that's partly what captured my attention so much. So, Simon, I'm proud of you for wanting to cooperate first time round. That's why we get on so well. And I was
just lulling you into a false sense of security. If we kept playing, I would have had a stack of points a mile high.
I'm sure you would have, and I would have graciously conceded too. But no, fun talking about this. I really appreciate your insights. And I think until next time, be nice, be forgiving, but just don't be a pushover.
Yeah, indeed. And subscribe.
Yes, subscribe. If you enjoy these podcasts, subscribe and you will get them automatically delivered to you. You won't have to go hunting. So you keep all abreast of our conversations. So thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate it. And please subscribe.
Lift is presented by Simon Matthews and Darren Morton. It's sponsored by the Lift Project and supported by Avondale University. Music provided by Pixabay. If you have a question or a topic you would like to hear more about, send us an email to podcast@theliftproject.global. The Lift Project. Lift your mood, lift your life.